Hi everyone, it's Michael, and today's video is unfortunately not a very fun subject. So if you watched my August 2017 orchid collection update, I kind of walked you through what was going on with my Paphiopedilum Pinocchio Lowii hybrid. It appeared to have this brown, mushy spot growing at the crown of the plant. So after looking at some resources, cross-referencing some good feedback, I confirmed my suspicions. I do think it is brown rot, which means it needs to be treated immediately. Now, I want to show you exactly what that process looks like, but let's also talk about where it came from. The strongest likelihood is that I watered this plant a little carelessly and I allowed water to get right in the crown of the plant, therefore causing the rot, which is extremely unfortunate. I do have another suspicion, however. This orchid came from the exact same place as my last path, which struggled with bacterial infections from the day I had it. So I'm not quite sure if that is a common through line, but it does make me feel just a bit leery of purchasing from that garden center. I'm really sad to do this because obviously the orchid is in bloom, and beyond that, Paphiopedilums are such slow growing plants that I feel like I'm not going to see blooms for years after doing this because I'm going to be removing a large portion of the plant in addition to cutting back the flower spike to allow it to invest its energy in regrowing a root system. So that's a whole lot of lead-in. Let me take you in closer on the orchid. You can get a better snapshot of what exactly is going on, and then we will move forward with the treatment. So as you can see, the orchid is still very much in flower, but if we travel downward, the front growth looks like it is just fine, or at least it's creating the illusion it's just fine. There's actually some brown right at the bottom that's causing me some concern. But if I rotate the plant, you can really see the biggest source of alarm is the brown rot that is spreading from the crown of this back growth. So that needs to be removed. All of that rotting matter needs to be cut away and sterilized. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. Here we are, guys, and something really interesting stands to be said, which is that in the less than 24 hours that have unfolded since I did the August orchid collection update, this has deteriorated and continued to rot so much that I really think I can just pull this portion of the plant right off. So that's something to know about brown rot. It moves quickly and it can kill your plant in a matter of days. So once you identify it, you have to move swiftly. That being said, I still do have my 70% isopropyl alcohol here sterilizing my cutting tools because I am going to unpot this orchid and I am going to try to see if there's any other decaying matter that needs to be removed. I want to make sure that I cut into a little bit of healthy tissue to ensure that everything is cared for. But for right now, let's just see if I can just remove this. Yeah, you guys, look at that. That is so sad, but that's also going through the entire body of the plant at this moment, so I really need to get this taken care of immediately. So let me go ahead and get this unpotted. You guys, it is just, look at it, it is just coming right off. Ugh. So what I need to do is I need to get right inside of here where the crown is and remove all of this decaying matter before it continues to spread. It looks like that guy is still hanging on. Oh, let me get you in closer. This other growth is still hanging on in there, but I'm afraid it might be, you know what, I'm just gonna stay positive. Let's see if I can save it. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and put this in a soak of water so I can really kind of get into it and remove this growth. The reason I'm soaking this is because I really want to get in closer to where the rot is stemming from so I can trim it up and go ahead and sanitize and disinfect it. But right now the root system is a little rigid, so I want to give it a little bit more flexibility. So I've gone ahead and drained the water, and this is going to be such tricky business because if you look, this root system is so just rigid, it's not letting me get anywhere near it. So I'm gonna have to start removing some of the dead and decaying matter around it, including the old roots, and hope that it'll give me greater access to the crown. I'm not sure how this is gonna go, so let's go ahead and time lapse it. All right, guys, so something interesting is occurring to me as I'm doing this process, which is look how much old bark medium is inside of this orchid. Now, I'm gonna link the video in which I did kind of a semi-repot on this because I really wanted to allow the blooms and the buds to continue to develop and give me beautiful flowers, which they did, but the trade-off was significant because had I just gone in and repotted this immediately, I would have caught how bonded to its old potting medium it was, and I would have possibly been able to intervene before it became an absolute disaster. But right now it is just that, it is an absolute disaster. No lie, you guys, I feel like a doctor that's in the middle of a very complicated and very delicate surgery. I've gone ahead and removed all of the old potting medium that I found trapped inside of the root system, all of the rotting roots, so what's left now is just viable roots. But when I take you in closer, you can see this is the source of where all of the rot was coming from, and I need to remove that altogether. So what I'm going to try to do, and I'm not sure it's going to be successful because they do seem really, really intimately connected, I want to try to snap this off as if it was a division, and see if I can just get it off that way. Otherwise, what I'm gonna have to do is systematically trim all of the roots that are coming out of the growth that had the rot, and then cut the tissue away. So let's go ahead and get started and see what I can do. Okay, so that is very clearly not going to work. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and trim off all of the roots that are coming from the source of rot and just remove that piece altogether, just all of the dead tissue. Oh, yuck. Guys, did you just see that pop right off? All right, you guys, I think I did it. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but I did cut not only the rotting matter, but I did cut a bit into the healthy tissue around it, just to make sure it's good and out of there. So let's go ahead and move on to the next step. I've gone ahead and cleaned up my workspace. So what I have in front of me is what's left of my Paphiopedilum and my Physan 20 solution at a concentration of 1 teaspoon per gallon of water. Now, of course, I am taking a step back from Physan 20, but I'm really taking a step back from using it recreationally. Or maybe recreationally isn't the right word, but I'm taking a step back from using it when there's not an immediate pressing need to disinfect. But in a case like this, in a case like brown rot, having something like Physan, which is an algicide, virucide, fungicide, bactericide, it's going to help kill whatever may potentially still be lingering around the system. I do want to tread lightly, however, because of course paths do not like a whole lot of fuss. But I think I already crossed that line with this guy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray down the root system. I'm going to spray down the area where I removed the rotting tissue, and I'm going to let it sit for a period of 15 minutes. 15 minutes has passed, so I've gone ahead and rinsed the root system of all of the Physan 20. But just as a secondary measure, I'm going to go ahead and give it a quick 10-minute soak in plain distilled water to make sure that that chemical content doesn't adversely impact the development of the orchid from this point forward. Okay, Google, set a timer for 10 minutes.
Sure, 10 minutes, and here we go.
10 minutes has passed, so I've gone ahead and drained all of the distilled water. Now, one of the last steps in this process is to go ahead and use cinnamon. I talk about cinnamon a lot, but it is a fabulous natural antiseptic, and it really helps to dehydrate anywhere you've created an incision or a wound so that it's not susceptible to getting infected. So I'm going to go ahead and take a Q-tip here. I'm going to dip it into my cinnamon here, and then I am going to liberally apply this where I did the cutting of the rotting tissue. Taking care to not place it on the root system because obviously it's going to dehydrate them. You don't want to do that to the roots, but I am going to place it there, and I'm also going to place it where I clipped the flower spikes. So I'm going to go ahead and start there. Great. And right here. All right. So now the very last step in this process is to make sure that there's a solid enough airflow to dry out this entire system. What probably caused the rot in the first place was an excess of water that was sitting in the crown. So what I want to do is make sure that everything is properly dried up so that that doesn't become an issue again. So what I'm going to do is place this right in front of a fan. I'm going to allow it to dry the system for a period of about an hour to an hour and a half before I repot. You can see I have it in very close proximity. The fan is right in front of the path. I have it directed so that the air will go down into the crown of the orchid itself, as well as kind of dry out the area next to the root system that we just addressed. So once that process is done, I will go ahead and repot as usual and then just keep a very close eye on this guy. As always, thank you so much for spending your time with me. Please send positive energy to my Paphiopedilum. I would really love to see this make a speedy recovery. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share if you found this useful, and have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye, guys.